Welcome to Kicking the Ash podcast, where we don't just chase dreams. We trip, we fall, we cry. But that's actually half the fun. Here we laugh at the mess, embrace the imperfections, celebrate the wins, and remind you that starting from scratch is actually the best part of the story. So buckle up because it's about to get ash kicking. We have our second guest, Nico, who is the owner of one of the famous restaurants in LA called the Little Door. It's been rated the most beautiful place in LA or the most romantic place in LA. And it didn't happen overnight. And we want to talk about the story behind the opening and him coming from France to LA. So welcome, Nico.
Hello, hello.
So I want to ask you a couple questions because you came to LA 40 years ago, almost 40 years ago. So the city wasn't the same. We didn't use any phones. We didn't use any GPS. It was back to maps and stuff like that. So, well, first, why did you decide to come to LA from France?
I follow somehow my brother's path. I was going to go somewhere at one point anyway, because he was a bit older. He was able to leave the house before me. And we come from a small, town in southwest of France, which is, incredible. I mean, we were blessed by the way we grew up. It was on a beach. We were basically, very lucky. We didn't grow up in a city. So we were always out. And but like anything else, I think, when you are in a small town, you start to miss something. You look at, you listen to music, coming from California. You look at certain film you see, right, where you see the surfer, because we used to windsurf a lot, right, because of the where we grew up. And of course, like Hawaii, California, the music, all of that, all of a sudden start to sink in, and Fredo left before me, basically. He went to a cooking school, and he moved to Paris. From Paris, he moved to Florida. From Florida, and we moved to Newport Beach, actually, and then LA. And me, I was trying to follow him, but it was since I was younger, it was a bit more difficult. My dad didn't want me to go because my brother was already gone, and he wanted to keep me with him. So it took a while, and it was a bit of a break, when I left. I think for my parents, because the two sons were gone, basically. And, it was not that simple for them. And I came to LA at 20 years old, basically. I had one-way tickets, basically.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect to stay either. I was just going without having, the idea of maybe staying, for 40 years. That was definitely not on the agenda.
Yeah.
And then from that, I think what happened to us was we grew up in a place where it's extremely dead in winter and extremely busy in summer. Everybody lives, in those, type of town. They do hospitality because, you actually, go to school in winter, and in summer when all the tourists come, you work in a restaurant, you work in an hotel, you work in a camping ground. So it's already inside the DNA, basically, of those towns, right? So we all had, some certain knowledge of about to greet people and, to work in a club or in a restaurant or something, for the tourists.
Yeah.
So when we came here, basically, first of all, I had no idea that Hollywood was in LA. Just to give you, some idea. I had no clue. I realized only when I was here.
And you saw the sign?
Yeah,
Okay, great.
I had no idea.
Okay.
It's true. I had no idea. I knew, that, we are in California. I knew that we could surf and maybe windsurf. You know what I mean? It was all about that to me, and of course, being there, the desert, the music, this hippie, things, what I mean, than California had. was a big drive, So we decided to, the only way, we could basically do something, make money was, going into hospitality,
Mm.
which we knew how to do. Fredo started before me. He was in Newport, and he moved to LA. Then I was trying to actually visit him, and he had this place he was helping. There was a restaurant called Senor Blanco, which was like a Mexican fast food.
Mm-hmm.
And he decided to actually turn it into a French Mexican restaurant where he could do the French burrito. So you had basically
So what's the French burrito?
French burrito was like the burrito forestier, which was like mushroom, in a
Okay.
burrito, or the Provençal, you know what I mean? But he didn't have any structure. I think he was lacking. He was being screwed basically.
Mm.
By whoever, some French dude he was working with, I think somehow a blessing because I came in at this moment where it was, we had to actually do something together without this partnership,
Yeah.
which was very toxic for him. And we left basically, and we started to just do, like clubs. But it was clubs where we were, because when we had no money, basically we found a location in the city, and most of the time was like an existing restaurant who was not doing well, or a club who was not doing well. We come in, we make a deal, with the owner, like you take the bar, we charge at the door,
Okay.
So we were making money by a cover charge. We were renting the plants, the lighting system, the sound system, and it was only for a night, right? Was a lot of production for one night, and then promotion. Of course, we had no phone, so it was only flyers.
Okay, so did you go on the street and
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
We were like printing little flyers, and then with the address, and it was always a theme, a different theme. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because that's how we like to do it. It could be Brazilian, it could be African, it could be like so costume. It was a costume things.
Okay.
To it, and the music, and the musician came across, at one point. So we ran that for a couple months, once a month we move locations, and it's starting to be very, very popular. People were waiting for us for the next one, basically, to just happen, and then we found this one location, which was incredible. It was, I think it was the third or fourth location. It was some old church in downtown. It was more like a men's club, a Night of Columbus, basically, which is a beautiful old structure, almost like a Mason lodge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where they have their member. It's only men, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like old school men. Most of them were old cops or old fire, chief or whatever. You know what I mean? A bit, I'm not going to say racist, but they were, right on the edge. So for us, it was fun because we walked in, and of course we bring African dancers. You know what I mean? And fire eaters. And we packed the place. I'm talking about like a couple hundred people basically coming at the door. At that point it was a kitchen in a place, so we decided to actually do a restaurant as well. And we decided to take the place, like 2 nights a week, same location.
Okay.
To actually start to establish ourselves. We didn't make any money at the bar, which was, which was the main thing. But we didn't care at that moment. We didn't need much. I think the excitement of doing something like this, bringing bands, and the restaurant, which was unbelievable. I could go into detail after to tell you what happened there, and who came to that place. I had celebrity already coming in. This new era of club in Los Angeles. Clubs were basically rock and roll at the time. It was like the mid '80s. World was not existing really. It was world music, but it was not. Nobody really cared, or it was never promoted in a right way. So when we started to do this, you're talking about Latin music, and bands from Africa, or you know what I mean, was so we starting to to gain traction, with a good portion of the people in LA, who knew about it, and all of a sudden, the things became really really busy.
So how did you bring, because internet wasn't, we didn't have internet like
No,
40 years
no,
ago.
no. It was again. It was radio.
Yeah.
So it was phone,
Okay.
radio. Then the radio station start to actually promote. If you had a some sort of special event, a band coming from from Europe, or
Yeah.
that was basically the only way you could promote it, like the old days. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
had poster, or
Yeah.
flyers, or answering machine. So you call, somebody leave a message for you, basically, right?
Yes.
You don't know until you call your
Yeah.
machine, and it was, but
Yeah.
it was working.
Do you think, because you live with no internet and now it's all social media, right? Do you think it was more, not easier, but it was more a human connection back in the days, because meeting people face to face instead of having them on the phone, you create more connection through those events than today, just sending stuff on your phone and on social media?
You build up a more faithful, friendship in general, or followers in general, because I think there is an effort made
Yes.
at this moment, to actually, go see something. When you decided to go someplace or to meet somebody,
Yeah.
you do it. It was not like, I think it was way less a you call that a not disturbance, but a
Options.
yeah, options. The problem I think nowadays is like you could just suck Tinder. You know what I mean? Like, hello. I mean, which doesn't
Yes.
make any sense. I think it was different. And I don't know if it was harder or easier for businesses, because everybody could use internet now and do social media promote their thing. So um, I think what made us different at the time is being able to bring the live in and when I'm talking about live music and live shows from all over the world. We had an incredible kitchen, also incredible food. We were also maybe part of the new cuisine, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Which was not existing. Everything we touched at the time was completely new. We had a very strict policy also at the door. It was not about letting only rich people in, right? Because if you only have rich people, it's boring, basically. It's true.
Yeah.
You need to actually mix up,
Yes.
right? You need to actually bring a mix. I'm not talking about rich poor, but people's race. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You want to be able to actually mix as much as
Yeah.
you can. So the policy at the door was like that. We favor artists because we were downtown LA, which was downtown LA back in the 80s was rock and roll. Okay, I mean
Was it cleaner or not?
it was not cleaner. It was definitely more dangerous.
Yeah.
Because you had all this movement now of like the revival of downtown LA being artistic, which was, it's not really true, by the way, because artists were living downtown LA at the time because it was very cheap.
Okay.
So you could actually rent a humongous space, a humongous studio to be an artist, to do sculptor or being a painter for like $200 a month. The price was like this because no one wanted to go there.
Okay.
It was bad. It was gangs. I had two cops basically off duties working for us at the time. One of them looked like Clint Eastwood, by the way, and he had the same size gun. I mean, it was just like it was rock and roll. Though you had like Madonna who used to come. I remember this one night Madonna wanted to come, and it was a costume basically night we had, and she had no costume. So she couldn't get in. She had to actually go back basically to her place, you know what I mean, and
awesome.
put a costume on, And then you walk inside and you have David Bowie, playing on the pool. And you have Bono there, they're getting drunk on Jack Daniels basically, and it was really, really like it was something else, And so from that moment, start to gain, more and more traction, and we had issue, on that location after a couple of years with landlord because we had no lease. Of course, we had nothing. We didn't care. I mean, it was just like we do it for the fun of it, right? We just don't do it for the money or and maybe
Yeah.
I think most of the time the success comes, like that. You don't do it for the money. You just do it because you want to do
Yeah.
something nice and fun.
Was LA very segregated when you arrived?
Oh, it was more, definitely.
Yeah.
It was more, and I think the cops were definitely much, much tougher. It was no joke.
Yeah.
They were the kings, basically.
There are a lot of, diversity in Europe. Here people are more in community and not putting themselves together. What was the most difficult thing putting all those people in one place at one time for one night?
I think when you choose the right people, like, and like I said earlier, mainly we had a lot of artists,
Mm.
painter, singer, sculptor, movie, set designer. You know what I mean? The club was definitely a club for artists.
Yes.
And so the energy when you start to bring all those creators together, the color doesn't matter anymore.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not. They don't even look at you as they just look at you
Yes.
for who you are, the energy
Yeah.
you bring, and that's why we never felt it was. There was no segregation there.
Yeah.
It was just like people who have the same view on things and energy and creative mind. And most of the time it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
You bring a bunch of people together
Yeah.
from other countries and music from other countries. So you kind of like bother some people and open the mind to others as creative. And I find you to be a very creative person. I think it's your job to awake people or to teach them something, or bring them value to their life. And the whole breaking rule for me is what is important.
From those moments also you start to create basically a network. And I know people now for 40 years in LA.
Yeah.
I still have friends from 40 years
Mm.
ago who are definitely older, like me.
Well, you don't go back younger. That's
No,
for
you
sure.
don't go back, but I think you could stay young, though. I think there is a way. I think it's important to keep hanging, with young people.
Yes.
No, it's that's what
Keeps
keeps
you
you
alive,
young. You know what
yeah.
I mean? I mean, it's just and maybe the luck I had was to have two daughters,
Mm.
which people think sometimes having kids make you actually older, which I disagree.
Mm.
I actually think it's the opposite. I actually think having kids force you to actually go down to actually their level at the level of
Okay.
mental,
Yeah.
and you have to be younger to understand them.
Mm.
There's a strange dynamic there.
I think you also make the effort to understand the next generation, and not a lot of parents do that. Some parents, they just want to stay in their own thing and then don't want to try to learn anything about, how the world evolved and stuff like that. So I think you do that pretty well. But you decide to do that because this is what you want to do. You want to be close to your kids too.
Yeah.
But you also have this freshness to always wanting to be in the party life, which comes from what you're saying to me about creating live moment with people. And I think you still have that today. And what's make you young is because you're still in love with life. Even in the way you created the restaurant, you have people in there working there, have big personalities. How did you find all this stuff? People have such unique personality because you chose them, but you chose them for a reason. And I think like this creative part of you make you pick the right people for the right place. And when you look at a restaurant today, everybody is love being here.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of you. It's not because of the job, because the hospitality is a very difficult job.
You treat that place. I mean, like any place we've done, since we came to LA. Like your house. Very
Yes.
much so. That's why maybe you start to feel comfortable, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Or even the customers, start to feel comfortable at this point, you know what I mean?
Too comfortable.
Yeah, they start to remove their shoes, under the table, and like, But yeah, there's something there. I mean, I don't know if we choose the people or if it's the people choose us at this point.
Yeah.
They feel and they stay. If they don't like it, they leave. Yep.
Yeah. It's nothing you can do.
Nothing we can do. No. When we first signed the lease on the Little Door, it was a restaurant who was existing, but it was not called Little Door. It was called Mosaic. It was a kosher restaurant.
Okay.
It was a friend of mine, basically, who decided to do this restaurant. And we tell him, we said, we are in a business, for a long time. It's like, look, it's not going to be easy. Plus, you would Shabbat on Friday, so you're going to be shut on Friday, basically.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And Saturday, basically, because you cannot work or, do the prep for the Saturday night. So he shut down 2 nights in a row. He opened the place, he struggled for years, basically, like 3-4 years, he struggled. At that time, we had a place called Bokeos, which was a really fun bar.
Okay.
Live band again, every night, really successful place. But then we have a fire in the kitchen, and we have to close the place for at least a year, basically. And that's when he called me. He's like, well, I don't want to do this anymore. Maybe, the fire was the reason why you should maybe switch now and come, take over the space. Yeah. And that's how basically Little Door was born. Even though it was very tough for us at the beginning because Little Door only had a beer and wine.
Okay.
There was no full liquor license. So it was just, we came from the bar business, it was not that simple at this point. But the rent was so cheap. It was like $3,500 a month.
Okay.
Which is
nothing.
Which is crazy. People pay 50, 75,000 on a certain location. And I said to Fredo, look, if the restaurant don't work out, it's okay. We just move in. We just basically turn the Little Door into our house.
Because it looks like a house. It was a house, right? It was a house,
yes.
Yeah.
It was a house. It was a school for, children with issues.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And then so it was always, you had this vibe of somebody's house.
Yeah.
It was actually the landlord, grandparents basically live there.
Okay.
And so it's always this vibe there. It's been a long journey.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't really talk about everything in between.
So it's a family business. We talked about that.
Yes.
For me, if I open a business with my family, I'll literally go crazy. So what do you think is the success of doing a business with your family? Because there are things that you can do, but there's still you can't do because they're family. It's complicated. You can't work with them the way you work with an employee or someone you hire. I'm interested to see what are your thoughts on that.
I mean, I know, what you are saying because I witnessed this with my father and his brother.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Actually fighting, actually being in competition between themselves. They were in the same field of business and they were actually, and he was not good. He became nasty, fighting and not very kind, not very nice. So I think that maybe not traumatized me, but was a bit, I when I saw what happened there, I was like, it should be the opposite at this point. You know what I mean? I should try to actually make sure this will never happen between, between my brother and myself, right?
Yes.
There is always an ego issue, in anything, and I think that ego, has to be put aside, you know what I mean? And it's not simple, not everybody can do that. I'm a Libra, actually. So
we know.
The problem with the Libra, it's like we are like the, what you call that? The the punching ball, basically. Like a punching.
You are
the punch. You're in between, being make sure, okay, yes, it's fine there, it's okay here. You know what I mean? Trying to actually negotiate in the center, and maybe that's why we stayed together for so long.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure a lot of people would have walked away if it was not,
you.
up to me.
you're such a rock when it comes to like the business. And then also you have your daughters come in, you have Freda's wife, and it's a lot going on, right? You make it seem so easy that you're like, okay, there are hope that family business can actually work. I don't know. I can't see myself doing it. I mean, my parents own a restaurant, and I've worked with them before coming to LA because I needed to save money. And I'm like, I can't wait to get out of here. Because it's a lot. You leave with the person and then you work with the person, and there's no break in between. But I think you balance everything pretty well, and honestly, like, good job.
Yeah, I think it's getting, maybe it was more difficult at the beginning,
Mm,
I was married, you know what I mean? And that was another, huge, especially when you're married, you have kids, you're in a restaurant business,
mm,
it's already tough if you don't, being married, having kids in LA, you have no family to take care of the kids. I mean, you have to do everything on your own. On the top
yeah,
of it, you are out at night, late, you work
yeah,
late. The kids wake up early. You have to take them to school. You have to do the lunchbox. I mean, the pressure
yeah,
was crazy, and you don't sleep much. And it's just. So I think going through that, and being able to survive this, even though the marriage didn't survive, you know what I mean. But I'm not saying it was because of it. I think it was maybe because the choices of what happened.
we're not getting
Um,
into details.
no, but I think life, is a long lesson. You learn every day. There is no age not to learn.
Yeah,
And actually not to repeat certain things you do or
mm,
take certain things. At the first degree. You know what I mean? Right away could be really bad for you. Wisdom comes with time. I mean,
yeah,
as you age, you start to analyze things differently. And I think I'm in a place now in my life where I could actually, could actually say that. If something doesn't work, then it's okay. Just open another drawer. You know what I mean? Oh, this one, oh, this one. I mean,
yeah.
there's
You
there's
adjust.
solutions. You adjust.
Yes, yeah,
It's part of of growing. We failed,
yeah,
multiple times. I mean, there was certain decisions were made. And it was not. It was bad actually.
yeah.
We had some really really hard time.
Mm,
Pre-COVID was extremely tough. I actually think COVID was a very good thing for us. I mean,
okay.
as horrible, as COVID was,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a reset for us. Like,
Yes.
you shut down, all the staff left, you know what I mean? I didn't, no, it's not even about firing people, or like laying off people, I'm sorry. They just left,
Yeah.
and it was actually new blood came in, basically.
Yeah.
We were able to actually, like, rethink a lot of things, you know what I mean? And the restaurant basically, was already 25 years old. It was already past, to the 20 years mark,
Yes.
basically, was becoming a routine, you know what I mean?
Mm,
It was, I think, actually a time to recreate stuff,
yeah.
and
And then refresh a little bit. Yeah.
refresh. And then the success was basically, you could see now it's
Yeah.
actually, we are busier than ever.
I remember my mom called me once. She's like, "Oh my God, Nico from the little door. Il y a une émission sur M6
Yeah,
sur Nico." She was so excited.
yeah,
So because the concept of the restaurant at the beginning, right, is because you couldn't see the restaurant from the street,
no,
right? So celebrity were coming in to be a little more hidden
yeah.
because you had to enter the
The
little
little
door.
door.
Here you go, to enter, and then nobody could see them, right? The creative concept of the little door brought so many amazing people and customers. So, how did you think of that?
I think the little door was already, a new concept and
Mm,
in restaurant business. So when we switched from clubs to restaurant and did the little door, we were the first one to have this outdoor patio. There was no one. Yeah,
okay.
there was no one basically having an outdoor patio like this. You could find spot, in LA where like more like a fast food with a
Okay.
little garden, but
Yeah.
to have actually a fine dining restaurant inside a garden like that was completely new.
Mm,
We were also the first one to have a wine bar. the fact that we didn't have any full liquor
Yeah.
license, we could only serve wine. So what we did, we actually created this super extensive wine list, which was also not existing
Okay.
in LA at the time. Keep in mind, man, when we opened the little door back in '96, you only had about 300 vineyards in California.
Yeah.
Now you have 3,000.
Okay.
And it's also about the same time when Americans start to drink way more wine than beer. You know, it was a switch
Okay.
going on there, right?
Mhm.
So we were very fortunate and lucky. You know, we had guys coming from Santa Barbara, like actually, you know, winemaker, you know, to bring their own wine at the restaurant. We had
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
you know, 50 wine by the glass, which was not existing. We had this outdoor patio, which was not existing. We were the first one to go to farmers markets.
Okay.
We were the first one to do local, organic, seasonal. It was only us and AOC at the time. It was only
Okay.
2 restaurants basically doing that. You know, going to farmers market twice a week, picking up with a truck, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
and make everything fresh. Seasonal was also this new thing. The success, I think, also came from, like you said, maybe being in a weird street, because Third Street was definitely not happening at the time. There was a lot of body shop cars, you know what I mean? It was
Really?
one,
Oh
yeah,
my
no,
God.
it was not a very sexy street. The idea of the little door,
Yes.
actually, where did the name come from? At first, it was not. We had no name actually. It was nothing there. We were looking for a name because each time the name was very important to us. You know, from Flaming Colossus to Punana Souk to Bokeos. You know, we always came up with logos and names that were completely unusual. So we actually contacted our friend Rick Sereni, who always does all this work for us, and we tell him the concept about the restaurant and what we want to do there. And at the time, again, it was no phone really. It was just like So we get a fax at the house, like a fax came out like this, on paper, and then we see a cat, and I'm looking at the fax. I'm like, what the hell? Is he making fun of us? You know what I mean? I mean, it's actually a joke because, the logo of a little door, it looked like if 5 years old basically draw it. You know what I mean? I mean, the graphic at the time, because we come from everything was very square and the lines like like very modern. You have a drawing like this, which was was very different.
Mm-hmm.
Nevertheless, we actually kept the that logo, and then we were like, what do we do around that? So we found this door in this place in the valley who was selling a lot of antique from Mexico and beautiful stuff. And we found this giant door, which was a Spanish style door. And inside that giant door, basically, would fit perfectly into the opening of what we had.
Yeah.
You had the little door. So
love it.
So the idea was, what? We have this little door. We have the cat.
Yes.
So we put them together basically. On the sheet, you have the little door. You have the big cat. The big cat cannot go through the little door. You have the mice basically dancing on the other side.
Okay.
And that's how the whole story, which was very childish, but on the same time it was fun, right?
So when did you realize that the place was popping?
I think the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks were definitely not busy.
Yeah.
We were actually waiting for people, and then we got bombarded. We really got completely slammed.
So only 3 weeks.
Yeah, only 3 weeks.
Wow.
But also we were never fan of actually grand opening. We don't like this. We never did it. We always open very slowly, because a grand opening, it's impossible. Nobody's ready. I mean, your staff is not ready. The kitchen is nothing is ready. How can you basically get a few hundred people in the place? and have them actually like being treated the right way.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. The food is not there, the menu is going to change, the
Yeah.
staff is going to change too, at this point,
Yeah.
because certain people will leave, or
Mm.
will be will change. But we decided to actually really open as slow as
Yeah.
possible and feel, it's almost like buying a new car, and you break it in, you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
just goes slow at the beginning, and
And then you get
you
used to
change the
it.
oil,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And then you go faster and faster, right?
But I think you also like you're never completely ready every time you do something. There's no way in life where you said I'm ready. Like for me, all my project, I feel like I'm never 100% ready for anything I do. But sometimes you have to go through like, okay, I'm not ready, but I'm going to do it anyway, and we adjust along the way. Because if you wait for the time where you're like, okay, I'm ready, you're never going to do anything.
No, no,
Even like today, we're like today, I'm like, are we ready? No,
no. There's
no,
always room for improvement, but
exactly.
no. It's the same thing for. I think it's the same thing for everything.
Yeah,
You know,
you're never ready.
no. It's like talking to God and say, God, I have a plan, and God's gonna say, oh yeah, you have a plan. Me too, I have a plan, by the way.
Show me if both
Yeah.
comes together. Good luck. Would you see yourself being where you're at today when you were 20? Would you imagine opening this
No,
place? And
no, it
no.
was not. Nothing was planned like
Yeah.
this. I think though, when you have good intention and you throw those good intention out there,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like something is going to grow. You
Mm.
keep sending, like throwing seeds, you know what I mean? And just like, look, I want to do this and that, I mean, and then at one point, something is going to, is going to come, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Something's going to pop up,
Yeah.
and all those, ideas.
Mm.
I mean, it could be bad ideas too, by the way, and they also could actually come out of the ground, so.
I am sure you had very bad ideas. No, but like the concept of action, because a lot of people is like, yeah, I ask, I pray for it, but do you take action to actually make it happen and show the universe or whoever you believe in that you're ready for it? Sometimes it's not good to think too much, and I think you have that when you're like, let's do it and see how it goes. You're kind of like me, let's do it and see how it goes, instead of, okay, I'll pray for it and wait for actually you wait for nothing. You can't do that.
No, you can't. Like
So
you
yeah,
cannot pray and waiting for something to happen. That doesn't work.
coming from the sky, it doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't happen.
Exactly.
You have the story of this guy, who's got these horses and his, and the carriage, you know what I mean? And the thing is stuck in the mud, and he's like on his knee, like, praying God, that to help him to actually get the carriage out. Nothing happened. And then you have the other guy, basically, who's behind the carriage, pushing it,
Yeah.
insulting God, basically, like, you motherfucker. And then get the carriage out. I mean,
I love that.
it's
Yeah.
what it is. You just have to keep pushing, certain things.
Yeah.
I mean, it just
Yeah, you
go
have
wait
to.
for it.
I want to talk about the difference between Europe and here. What was the thing you liked about the US that you didn't like in France, and the thing that you actually like better in Europe and don't like here?
I think if you're an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely easier here. I think it's the best country in the world for that. You want to go work in Russia or in India, or I mean, where do you
Yeah.
want to go? Really, truly,
Yeah.
it's retiring is a different story, right?
Mm.
But if you want to do something, it's still, to me, I mean, from far the best country in the world.
Yeah.
To do things and to achieve things, you could actually do it here. I think America has got the best country in the world and the worst country in the world at the same time. Also, the liberty factor. People are like complaining, "Oh, we have no liberty." Oh, come on, we have so much liberty
Yeah.
here. We don't realize it because we don't live in China.
Yeah.
Or we know what I mean. We don't realize actually then we could say things.
Yeah.
Even Europe is becoming much tougher than America.
Yeah.
I think
Mm.
actually a bit more strict.
Yeah.
So that, I think, kept us here. Not only the success of what we have, also LA is, let's face it, it is what it is, but it's still very convenient.
Yeah.
I mean, we have maybe the best weather in the world,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's still a huge city.
Yeah.
You have the sea, you have the mountains, you have
Mm.
it's still full of creative people.
Yes.
It might not be, a place you want to retire, that I
Mhm.
would admit.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I would actually retire here. But then where? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe France,
I don't know.
Spain.
Yeah. There's a lot of bad things in America, but the opportunity and the way I personally grew as a person and as an artist, I wouldn't be able to do that in Europe. Because there's something here, and I know you didn't know Hollywood was here
I had no
when you
idea.
came in, but there's something in the energy of this city that makes it so special. And I think it's the creative from back then, and then it's in the ground. You can feel the energy here that the city is made for creative, and it's weird, and I don't know how to explain it, but it feels like it's full of possibility that you can't find anywhere else.
No, it's true. It's true. And and I witnessed that with people. I have stories, of people, which I used to hang with.
Mm-hmm.
We became, Jaman was a doorman at Punana Souk.
Yeah.
Lucy Lou, used to give me massage for $50.
Yeah.
Those are real story. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, it was just, it's true. She's still my friend.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say, you remember when you give me a massage? I'm not gonna say that, but it happened. You know what I mean? She was living in a small apartment in
Yes.
Hollywood. You know what I mean? And that's the beauty of LA. There's some stuff happening here which is not happening anywhere else.
Yeah, I believe so.
But I think also it's because it's attracting a lot of creative people.
There's also something about you that I love because you're super French. You
I'm
haven't.
not French.
No, listen
My
to me.
accent is
And then
French.
your accent is super French, but you don't have. Because I'm gonna say it, the French can be very critical, judgmental, and negative, and you don't have that.
That's why I left. And even when I go back to France now, and I go often, I can't. I'm having a hard time. At least you walk the street here, you say hi to somebody on the street, right? Or somebody you don't know.
Yeah.
You cross, hello. You try to do this in French, they look at you like, what do you want?
Qu'est-ce que tu veux?
It's very strange. I think
Yeah.
there are a bunch of of angry people.
Yeah.
I don't know why. They're the most incredible country in the world. They're so upset and and jealous and it's strange. It's very strange.
It is strange. Yeah.
Though I know they love America. They will actually say that they hate America, but actually deep inside they are in love with America.
So you said that, especially when the girls were young, and you had to manage the family life and the restaurant, what was the most difficult part for you as a father and as a business owner to manage all this together?
I don't know what was the most difficult part. I feel like it was a whole thing. It was not like something specific. I think the situation in general was complicated.
When they grew up, so you kind of bring them to the restaurant to work with you, right?
Yes.
It's tricky because they technically work with all your employees and they're a part of like the staff.
Yes.
How do you handle your boss stage and your father status in between all this?
No, it's not easy. That's not easy.
Because they're going to tell you stuff, and then you have to find the balance between protecting your daughter and having something for your daughter and actually being a boss and treating this person like an employee.
It's true.
So how do you manage that?
Well, you just have to be, trying to be as honest and and fair as possible. Because she's not, she's basically new.
Yeah.
I have people working there. I have managers, which I respect a lot. You know what I mean? And of course, I cannot,
Yeah.
that, I don't think you could actually vouch. You know what I mean? Because it's your daughter, she's gonna be, impeccable or not make any mistakes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's difficult. I think if I had a son, it might be easier.
Why?
I think there is something between fathers and daughters who are just different. I don't know why.
I don't have kids.
No, but but I think you might be a bit tougher. I mean, I had a relationship with my dad. It was very tough.
Mm.
It was
Yeah.
really hard. Maybe that's the reason why I left too. By the way,
Mm.
it was not
Yeah.
that simple.
Mm.
For sure, my brother left because of that.
Yeah.
It was it was complicated. They were basically almost the same age. When I
Yeah.
say the same age, my father was 17 years old
Yeah.
when my brother was born.
Okay. Yeah.
So we had a competition there. Two very good-looking guys. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I think he and then I was 3 years after that. I remember my father's 27th birthday. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So we were very, very close, maybe too close.
Mhm.
And then I saw my dad, the way he was with my sister, which
Yeah.
was night and day compared to
Yeah. Compared to
the
what?
way he was with my brother and myself.
Mhm.
By the way, she's only Naya worked there.
Yeah.
Because the other kids don't want to.
Don't want to. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So when she came to me and she's like, I want to do it, I'm like, sure. At one point anyway, I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life.
Mm.
I mean, it's better to train someone, who might take over in,
Yeah.
in a couple of years, maybe 5 years, 6
Yeah.
years, and I could go to Thailand or Vietnam.
So when the restaurants start being very successful, you had to deal with a lot of celebrity, right?
Yes.
How did you feel the first time that happened? Do you feel like you guys were equal in a way, or like did you feel a little intimidated? How was the whole
Well, yeah, I
experience?
mean, it depends,
Who is it? Yeah.
it is, but keep in mind, we had celebrity who used to come before already, in Bokeos and Fleming,
Yeah.
we already had, like people coming, and so it was not like a big surprise for us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We knew it was just a matter of time before, people start to,
Yeah.
to show up like this, and yeah, I mean, there is certain, few of them were
Yeah.
definitely, higher, like talking about Mick Jagger or
Yeah.
McCartney, having, a vegan meal, you know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
that's what he does, I mean, yeah, you want to make sure nobody bug them. And then you had, the paparazzi. I think the paparazzi, though, it's almost over. I don't see
Yeah.
paparazzi
Yeah.
anymore.
But how was back then? How did you
Oh, it was
handle
bad.
that?
No, it was bad. Paparazzi were actually a nightmare.
Did you had security? Did you have?
Yeah,
Mm.
we make them, go through the back door, even though, at one point they're paparazzi in a back alley too, basically,
Yeah.
just cornering them, making sure. I mean, it was really crazy. A lot of French celebrities too,
Yeah.
like, Johnny Hallyday,
Yeah.
Michel, all those guys,
Super
used
cool.
to come, which was fun because nobody know them.
Mm.
So all of a sudden you see them in LA, nobody gives a shit, basically, right? About
Yeah,
who they
because
are,
nobody
because they're
knows.
unknown. So they come to you and they're actually very humble. If you actually talk to them in France, they'll be, they won't even, look at you. But
Yeah.
they come to your place, you're the boss, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, how are you?
Okay.
They completely, they switch. They're actually, it's interesting. But you get used to it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I I don't even know. Sometimes there's people who are here who are
Mm.
famous. I don't even know who they are.
Yeah.
There is something they feel about you, though. He's talking to me as a person. He's not talking to me as a fan or as somebody who wants something from me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, and maybe that's why also, people love to come back. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Because they don't feel like they're treated for what I want to take from them.
Yes.
As celebrating being there. I
Mhm.
mean, I treat celebrities the same way I could treat anybody else.
Mm-hmm. So you said you had a lot of failure.
The
Yeah.
problem you have, one wrong turn in that business
Mm.
could be fatal. I mean, like, you could lose so much money. You could lose credibility. You could lose, also like mentally, you know what I mean? It could affect you, I mean, I think for us, we were at that point where, we were, recognized enough to be able to bounce back,
Okay.
even though it was extremely difficult.
Mm-hmm. But do you think like your failure got you to the person you are today?
Yeah, for sure.
Because if you didn't have them, I feel like you're missing some of the lessons and the learning.
For sure.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
Mm.
There's no doubt the failure. And there's one thing I learned is that a good deal is the one you don't make.
Mm.
But this comes really with, you call that, with experience time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And keep pushing, and you keep pushing, and I'm very impressed with what you do, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, because you are someone who don't let go.
No,
You just, and you will succeed. There is no doubt. You
thank
know.
you. Because I feel like nothing happened overnight. And then even for you, we talked about it when you're like, every time there's a failure, you just continue. You don't stop. And I feel like the non-stopping no matter what, and you have to have in your personality some stubbornness. I remember when I was a kid, mom was like, "You're so stubborn." And today I'm like, yeah, I'm stubborn and I'm proud of being stubborn because I never let go.
Well, the key is you have to be stubborn, but make sure you are right. Because you could be stubborn
In a wrong
in
way.
a wrong way.
But
So
yeah, but you have to like learn and then continue because for you didn't open the little door the first day you arrived in LA.
no, it took 10 years basically of training and experiencing different things. I
Yes.
mean, before to get to a product, you have to crawl before you walk.
You have to
Right?
crawl before you. And it's this 10-year period I was talking about it. I feel like it's a big test. The universe is like, okay, let's see how much you want it. And then after the 10 years, you get what you want because you get to a point where you deserve it. Do you call yourself today a successful person?
Yeah, I mean, I should be definitely grateful,
Mm.
and for what I've done, what we've
Yeah.
done. Am I fulfilled? I mean, I guess you feel you could always do more.
Yeah. I tell you so many times that like you have something that works 24/7, with or without you, which is fantastic.
Yes,
Because you put some people that you can trust.
trust.
Yeah.
You treat well.
Yeah.
You pay
Absolutely.
well.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's a
all
package,
of that
yeah.
is a package basically, and then there is, like you said, big trust, and
Yeah.
or sometimes I'm a bit, I mean, I always keep an eye,
Of course,
regardless,
you have
right?
to.
But
Yeah.
I think it's a team, It's just,
If you have an advice for someone that wants to start something new or doesn't matter the business, what will be the advice?
I think you could do anything you want in life as long as you don't get caught. Also, taking risk.
Yeah.
There is no way you could succeed, in general, if you don't take risk. If not, everybody will do it.
Yeah.
If there is no risk, right?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
At this point, you are not, special because everybody's doing it, and that's when your creativity basically and your sensitivity, start to kick in and say, no, I know, this is what we should do. We should do this, and we made the decision like this for the business.
What do you say to people that didn't believe in you and said, "Oh, you can't do that"?
I don't think it was specifically somebody who put me down. It was more the element. You know what I mean? It was the surrounding who put you down, or you want to put your seed basically, and and sometimes the soil doesn't accept it, and at this point you have to move on. I think we learned a lot from our mistakes.
You also have this ability to always like wanting more. I know that people your age sometimes are like, I'm just gonna retire and chill. But you not like that. Why?
Retiring is expiring. I truly believe the day you actually retire, your brain basically is going to send a message to your physical body when there is nothing else to do.
Yeah.
I think what keeps you alive is having projects.
Yeah.
What keeps you healthy, not only mentally but physically. It's having projects, and there is no age. I know
That's
people
true.
who are like 80 years old, or 85 years old, who still like go around basically.
Yes.
And I truly believe they are in good health because of that. Because there's these things, I mean, there is always an idea, and your body is going to follow this idea and make sure you support the idea.
So what's next? What's the next
I don't
project,
know.
Nico?
I would love to do an hotel. I don't know where yet, but I've been looking. I mean, I would love to have a hotel with
awesome.
with a great restaurant.
Do it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's an idea that's been floating in my mind.
That's
for
cool.
a while.
I love it. I love it. If you had to do things differently, what would you change? Or do you just like everything you did, even like the bad decisions?
Because I think they're part of the bad decisions were part of the good ones in
Yeah.
many ways. I mean, the good decision came because we had some bad ones. And all of a sudden you just okay, maybe this is
Yeah.
not a right road. Basically,
Yeah.
I think they're all they it's a yin and yang. Basically, it's just
Yeah.
it's just the good thing. There is no good thing if there is no bad thing.
I don't know if you read The Alchemist. There's a phrase that stayed with me. When something happened, he always said, good thing, bad things, who knows?
Yeah.
Because we don't know,
We don't know.
when it happened, if it's a good thing or a bad thing. We'll know later. Now that when I look at things that are happening to me, I was like, okay, it's for a reason.
For sure.
And I have to just go through it and adjust to it. And I think that's the beauty of life, when you look back and you're like, oh, now I know why,
Why
I love
sometimes
it.
you're stuck behind a car, at the traffic, and they're not moving, is because maybe that car's going to save your life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Maybe
Yeah,
who knows what's going to happen down the road.
yeah,
Or the guy who misses his plane, when doing 9/11. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
some dudes who miss their plane. They're like,
You
I
never
missed
know,
my
yeah.
plane, and then
yeah.
thanks God. I think life is like this, and there's signs.
Mm.
And I think signs, they are there around you. If you look around, be aware of things,
Yeah, the universe is showing you the way.
Yeah.
Where can we find the little door and find you? Because you're always at the restaurant, which is great, and it's a part of the charm. So tell us where we can find you.
Or you could find me at the. You could just go on. Well, you could Google it, I guess. I mean,
So 3rd Street, the
3rd
little
Street,
door.
8164, West 3rd Street.
Well, Nico, thank you. We will have you back when you do your hotel.
Soon.
Soon, do
Hopefully.
it. We call it the big door.
I don't know what we're going to call it yet.
Thank you for coming. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for
Yeah.
bearing with us, with me especially,
You didn't get how hard it takes to dance. You didn't see how beautiful it gets on the other side of pain. Second to your life, you can't embrace change.
This is the ice cream truck?
Yeah, we gotta wait.
Stop.
That's
Let's
so
definitely
loud.
hold for a sec.